Ladies and gentlemen. Today, I have Anthony Curtis of Morning Motivation joining me today. We're going to be talking about some interesting things about real estate today. I am going to be interviewing Anthony and asking him some important questions about real estate and what I can do in order to help people get rid of their fear when it comes to investing in real estate and understanding some things, because sometimes as a realtor, which I am, it's sort of hard to understand how to reach people, how to gauge people and know what it is that they don't know and what they're afraid of, because a lot of people can be a little scared to be forthcoming with this information, right? We live in a fast-paced world where we're expected to know a lot of things. Me personally, I'm more interested in uplifting and helping people with the things that they don't know. So Anthony is here today to sort of help me get more of an understanding, just as a person out there that's looking to build legacy for his family, on what I can do to bridge the gap to help everyone and help our people in our community on bridging the gap on learning how to build wealth in real estate. So hi, Anthony, how's it going today?
I'm good, Tammy. Thank you. I appreciate you for having me today. I'm just looking forward to this, excited about it. Just want to see how we can motivate and encourage people to get on board, and let's start that generational wealth building for our families. So yeah. I appreciate you having me today. I'm really grateful for it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So it's not going to be a long, drawn-out video because I know people got things that they want to do and everything like that. However, I just have a few questions that I'd like to ask you. I've gotten to know you a little bit, and know that you're a pretty straightforward guy, with your morning motivational speaking that you have on Facebook, that you're always doing throughout the week. You're pretty much a, shoot from the hip type of guy, you're straightforward. And so it's an honor to interview you and to get some feedback. Thank you so much. So the first question that I have for you, Anthony, is why do you believe a lot of our people rent instead of buy?
Well, you know what? I've meditated on that question, and I had to ask myself that question first. Mm-hmm. Tammy, I always point things back to me before I start trying to speak for other people. Mm-hmm. And I was trying to wonder and figure out why was I so interested in renting instead of owning. So when I asked myself that question and I started to think back on how we grew up and in the neighborhood that we grew up in, and what my parents and things was doing and stuff like that, I started wondering why was I so interested in renting? Instead of ownership, thinking about owning my own house or, even my investment property and things like that. Mm-hmm. So what I find to believe true is exposure, Tammy. It's all about exposure. That's just what I can boil it down to. What were we seeing as a kid? All we seen was our parents paying rent to people, mm-hmm. Working hard out there, all day working, out there hustling, trying to stack up money to pay rent. So that's all we ever seen, growing up was our parents paying rent, Mm-hmm. Our exposure was make the money and pay these people so we can have a place to live. There was never any entrepreneurs or, investors in our eyesight. Nobody was saying you should own this house. My parents didn't own. They always rented. So I feel like we always lean towards renting because that's all we ever seen. Okay. Grandma, mom, family members, everybody was renting their home. Nobody was trying to buy or own their own home, or nor was they pushing that upon their children, So I think about our exposure. I read Bishop T.D. Jakes' book, and he was the book Soar, and he grew up being one of his parents, and his mom was buying property when he was a child. Mm-hmm. His mom was buying up the buildings in her community. Mm-hmm. His dad was fixing up the buildings and a handyman and things like that. So he was exposed to a whole different lifestyle. I grew up being exposed to my parents paying rent. Constantly paying rent. Go ahead.
Yeah. So it's funny that you brought up that book Sword. It's T.D. Jakes was talking about how his mom bought so many houses on that street that they named the street after her. Is that crazy?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's
Wow.
crazy. That's unbelievable. Like, that's some good exposure right there. Now, if you grow up and you rent after your foundation was all about ownership, then that's a personal issue. But I feel like if we would have had more of that in our community growing up, then more of us would be homeowners, and we wouldn't be afraid to jump into real estate to be on the other side of the fence.
Mm-hmm.
Like we more into paying rent than collecting rent. So I feel like exposure is everything, Tammy. That's how I view that question.
What's so confusing to me though is I sort of grew up opposite of that. My grandparents owned and everything, and then when my mom and dad got married, they did start off in an apartment. But my grandparents actually, when I say my grandparents, I talk about on my father's side.
Right.
My father had a brother. When both of my dad and my uncle got married, they wouldn't put a down payment on a home for each one of them. Okay, as a start. So I saw somewhat of a different story. But as I grew into an adult, we have our son, he's 22 or whatever, and I start seeing the mindsets now with reality TV and all the things that are on there. The shifting in the thinking, I believe, is imperative that there's some shifting in our thinking that needs to happen, because I grew up around people that the CD was where we basically dominated, and there's a couple of things that happened, crucial things that happened that came in there and broke us up, like raising the taxes, after these people have worked like dogs their whole entire life, right? Raising the taxes, so when they're on their retirement, the tax bracket that they fall in is outside of the amount that they actually can afford, that they're actually getting to pay all of the taxes and everything that they owe. So then so the ones that didn't want to sell, they raised the taxes, so they would have to move because they couldn't afford the area. And then the other ones that still could afford to stay there, they came through with the reverse mortgage scandal.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess for me, it's a little confusing on everybody that I know didn't have the mindset of not buying. There were some people that did, but I'm talking about as of today. What is the problem as of today? Because even with the mixture of how I grew up and how you grew up, it's a new time today.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm just sort of trying to figure out, one of the reasons I asked you that question, because I'm just sort of trying to figure out what everybody's on today. Like, because I want to do my best to open up their perception of, how, timing is everything, and the time is now. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So if I could speak on today, if I could speak about today, because I didn't necessarily, hit that point in the last conversation. But if I could talk about today, Tammy, I would say that real estate is down here for people, and pleasing people and being, so consumed in fashion, and everything else is up here. So everybody's priorities is all mixed up. And not only that, information. That's the number one thing. We, the community, the hood, the streets, we all lack information. We won't go read books, and we won't listen to the few that made it out the hood. You get what I'm saying, Tammy? So information is key. So if we can put a bunch of information and flood it into the streets and flood it to our people, and get them to understand that things is not as hard as we're making it seem, you know what I mean? Then I believe in a complete turnaround. I believe that our people will start grabbing hold to this thing and overcoming their fears about real estate and investing, entrepreneurship, and everything else. You know what I mean? So it's our duty and our job, the ones that are free, you know what I mean? The ones that have the information and the ones that have applied the information to their life. It's our job, it's our duty to go out there and flood the streets with this information. And that's what's so important about our Zoom right now, that we gonna flood the streets with this information. You know what I mean? When people watch this video, they'll be able to open up about real estate and ask more questions and say, okay, what type of credit score do I need? You know what I mean? Or
Yes.
how much of a down payment do I need? You know what I mean? But
Yes.
they will ask those type of questions because they real estate is far off from their visual. You know, it's like it's a giant. It's incredible. Like it's huge. Like that's not for me. That's how I used to think. Like, nah, that ain't for me.
You know what? That brings me to my next question. So,
Okay.
Anthony, what three things do you think are the biggest misconceptions that our people may have about real estate?
Right. Okay. That's a good one. And I think number one is not having enough money. You know, everybody's working to pay bills.
Right.
Everybody's working to go on vacation. Everybody's working to take care of their current situation. You know what I mean? And if
Right.
they are saving, they saving for a car, or they're saving for the next child they're about to have, or they're saving for a down payment on this and the down payment on that.
Or those
You know,
Jordans?
and those Jordans, and you know what I'm saying? They saving their money for the next 10 pair to come out. You know what I mean?
Real
So
talk.
thinking about what are they saving their money for, and the answer is not that you don't have enough money. The problem is that you're saving money for the wrong reason. You get what I'm saying? So because it only takes 10, 15,000, you only need, if people only knew that they needed a small amount, you know what I mean, and an okay credit score, then I think everybody can jump on board. But number one is not enough money, Tammy. That's the first answer.
Mm-hmm.
And number two, I will say it's too big of a dream for people. Like I said, the level of their exposure. Nobody in the family own real estate.
Yep.
Everybody come from a working class family. Everybody come from a hustling family that only came around with the shiny cars and the jewelry. You know what I mean? And the pocket full of money. But
Right.
nobody came around with deeds, titles, LLCs. Nobody came around flashing, that type of wealth. It was all
Right.
materialistic things. So, people, they'd rather not dream that big. Say that ain't for me. As long as I can keep up with the Jones, as long as I can live, a little bit above my means, and have money on the weekends and have money to go on vacation, then I'm good. And my daughter got the cleanest J's. My son got the newest chain or the newest, jersey on or whatever, shoes. I'm good. You know what I mean? But I think we need to start dreaming bigger. We need to understand that generational wealth is about the long game and not the short one. So that's what I believe. I'm gonna just give two for right now. I'm gonna need to meditate a little bit longer on the third one, Tammy.
Okay, no problem. I think that was some very good content that you gave. Listen, what I want people to understand is, gosh, I don't know how to convey this, Anthony, but the potential inside of us as individual there's some untapped potential in there. And I'm going to tell you, I want to convey so badly to our people that there is nothing that you can't do. The only thing you lack is information, right? And so the way people sort of box other people out is by hiding information, hoarding information, keeping information. You know what I mean? But who can stop somebody who wants to find out something? Nobody. So I think that, we should, ask ourselves as individuals, how do we spend our time? What do we spend our time doing? What are the important things to us, and most importantly, how much time do we think that we have to build something? Like, I mean, what is the human life, span expectancy? What is the expectancy, the life expectancy, and,
Right.
it's all about just finding the right person to get the answer to your question. And one of the things that I've ran into, because I know how discouraging it could be when you set out to do something and you don't have all of the answers and stuff like that. But I'm going to tell you, I don't believe in magic, but it's almost like magic. I'm going to say it for a lack of a better way to explain it. Whenever you start on something, it's always difficult. But when you start asking questions, right? And you're adamant about asking questions, all of a sudden you just start colliding into the right people, or the right people are drawn to you. You might have a question inside yourself that you haven't even released yet, but it's almost like there is a power that is released once you start a process, and
Right.
you start taking the steps, it's almost like, it's almost like God is encouraging you and saying, come on, you're on to
Right.
something, you're on to something, don't
Exactly.
stop, keep walking,
Exactly.
keep moving. A lot of times what ends up happening though is that, we deal with our individual woes and different things that are going on in our life, and we end up being discouraged. And a lot of people, I believe, end up quitting right before a breakthrough.
Exactly.
Right
Yeah.
before a breakthrough. And if you
Mhm.
really notice, if you really think about how, if you've really struggled with anything in your life, right, you go through this process of where you struggle, and right before you're about to give up, right before you're about to just throw in the towel, something miraculous happens.
Oh yeah.
You
Yep.
know what I mean? And I think that happens not just for that scenario, but to teach us to learn from the things that we've been through and pull some of those principles into the new things that we are looking to do.
Right, exactly. No, that you are completely right about that, Tammy. And I just, like you said something very valuable. When you start thinking a different type of way, then you attract different things. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
I think if we, and then like I say again, here we go with exposure. Like if you want to know something about real estate, I think you need to get people that's in real estate in your corner. You know what I mean? If you want to know something about entrepreneurship, you need to get somebody that's that's a entrepreneur already. You know what I mean? In your circle, you need to start making sure that you are attracting the right people in your life. You know what I mean? And a lot of times, our people can't dream big because they're around a bunch of dream killers. You know what I mean? So the moment they talk about real estate, you got somebody else with a poverty mindset, you know what I mean? Or with a broken mentality saying that, oh, come on, man, real estate, that's out the question, man. You ain't got enough credit, you ain't got enough money, you know what I mean? You ain't got a license. That's another one right there. A lot of people think that they gotta hop into real estate with a license. Talk about that for a minute, Tammy. Say
Oh,
something about investing into real estate and not having to have a license.
you do not have to have a license to do real estate. What you have to do is have education on what real estate is and how, and explore the idea of what you're planning on doing in real estate. So you need to be able to come up with a vision on what it is that you want to accomplish, right? And surround yourself, like you're saying, with people that are already in real estate. Like you could do things like, for instance, like I know what you want to do. You want to invest in real estate. Right?
Exactly.
So to be an investor, you do not have to have a license. What you have to have is knowledge on how things work, because we all know that if you have this vision and you go into doing something and you don't understand how it works, but the people that are supposedly working with you understand how it works, you're going to be broke.
Right.
They are
Exactly.
going to suck the living blood out of your money, okay,
Mhm.
out of you and your money. So, but it's definitely possible. It's definitely feasible. Um, you have to understand actually what market we're in so that you understand which principle to apply, right? Because I get a lot of people that are asking me, the first thing that home buyers ask me is, Tammy, what's up? LaTamla, what's up with the foreclosures? What's up with the foreclosures? And I understand exactly why they're asking that, but you have to understand the market that we're in. The reason why foreclosures were such a big deal is because back in 2008, when everything fell, they were giving out, the reason why everything fell is because the banks were giving out loans to people that could not afford it. But they
Right.
weren't giving them these loans on a 15-year or 30-year fixed interest rate. They gave them loans that were based on the stock market. And so they knew that they would force a housing crash by handing out all these loans. So what they were doing was handing out the loans on this loan called ARM loans. ARM
Right.
loans is driven by basically, what the stock market and stuff is doing. So how they will you in is you get a whole bunch of house for your money and the payment is really low, right? And then eventually, if the stock market goes up or different things go up, your payment starts going up. But also too, with the ARM loan, after a certain amount of time, they have something called a balloon payment where everything needs to be paid off. Well, they weren't necessarily worried about the balloon payment because they knew that the stock market was going to crash, that these people were not going to be able to afford to pay for the houses that they had got. and that they were going to end up taking them back. So that's exactly what ended up happening. The stock market crashed. Somebody who started out with a house payment of like $1,500 ended up spending like $3,000 a month. Just boom, like that. Okay. And so what ended up happening is the banks are not, first of all, the banks are not into having houses sit on the market. What they're into is creating loans, correct?
Right.
Yeah. So in essence, what they did is when the market crashed, they had a whole bunch of houses that people couldn't afford that they took back. So they had to try to figure out a way on how they could start making money until the government bailed them out, right?
Exactly.
And so what ended up happening is investors started coming out the woodworks like yourself, right? And they had all these houses out there that were like candy with all these foreclosure signs on it. I know you guys remember going through those neighborhoods and you saw foreclosure all over, and they had their pick. That's why a lot of people got their houses in the Central District. You know what I mean? They came through and bought those houses for little of nothing, you know? And so, you know, the whole point of what I'm trying to say is it's important to sort of realize, you know, what kind of loan you're getting yourself into, right?
Right.
You need to understand what market that you're in, because foreclosures right now there's not a lot of foreclosures out there right now because investors with cash money are writing those checks for them. Because if you come to me as a buyer, you don't have enough time it takes about 15 to 30 days to process a loan, okay, through a lender. We don't have that type of time when you're talking about a foreclosure. If you have a foreclosure, you're going to take cash over somebody going through the process and filling out the loan paperwork, or having the loan paperwork filled out, but having it being processed and going through escrow and all of that. When you can get somebody that can pay cash money right off the bat, right? So we have to realize that right now, at this point in time, it's almost coming, guys. It's almost coming with all this COVID-19 talk and everything going on with the economy and stuff like that. The time is coming, I believe, again, that we're going to enter 2008. But you got to remember, things that happened before, they'd happen. There's a lot of things that happen in a similar way, but it's not always this exact same way. So we need to come together and study what we think those changes are going to be, so that we're able to benefit when this time comes, when the economy ends up having some problems, and those of us that have been saving and not spending our money on Jordans can actually monopolize on this time and build an actual legacy and wealth for our families. So did that answer your question?
Oh yeah, most definitely, Tammy. That's some good information, you know what I mean, for people to start looking into. You know, so now what I'm hearing you say, now is the time to start saving, because something similar to the 2008 crash is approaching us again. That's what it sounds like I'm hearing right now. So for our people, we need to be saving. When they getting those stimulus checks, they need to be saving those checks, not blowing that money, you know, working right now. I think this is a good time to save a lot of money. If you're in that type of position, save a lot of money right now. You know what I mean? Because you don't have to go out to eat. Your restaurants is closed like that. It's a good time to, you know, get healthy and things like that. But, you know, start putting your money up, get you about 15 to 20 grand, 30 grand, however much you can save up. You know what I mean? But I think our people should really start just looking into that right now. And especially even our young people too. You know, you getting out of college, you know, I mean, you're going into college, you're getting out of high school, you know, you're gonna start wanting to live on your own and things like that. It's time to start looking at real estate, you know, from a different perspective, so you can understand how to win in your situation, you know. So I think that's some very important information that you're giving the streets, Tammy, so we can start doing things the right way.
I want to tell you something though. You said something interesting. You said like $15,000-$20,000, right? And we all know that that's not really a lot of money, right? But to some people, that's the world. It is. I want to let you guys know that I have gotten people into a house for as little as $1,500 total. There was this one guy, okay? One of my clients, you guys can even talk to him. In fact, I'm gonna be pulling some of my clients that I've done business with so that they can talk to you guys and let you guys know that, you know, these are things that I've done for them, you know, when they didn't think that there was a way. This one particular client, he started off with a credit score of 550. You need a 620. If you have a 45% income debt to income ratio or less, or if you have more than 45%, then you need a 680, right? But this particular brother, he started off with a 550, okay? And within 8 months, after dealing with my credit specialist and stuff, within 8 months, we got him up to a 640, okay? Now, he still lived in a 1-bedroom apartment, studio, that is. Not even a 1-bedroom, a studio with his wife and 4 children, okay? And he didn't have a lot of money at all. Actually, he had no money. I'm just gonna keep it real. He had no money. But he had a dream to buy a home. Most people, were telling him how crazy he was. I said, no, we're going to develop a strategy. We're going to figure out a way to get this done. So what ended up happening is he ended up getting his credit score up to 640, which he only needed a 620. I put him on that 0% down payment program. And he bought his house for $270,000. It has 4 bedrooms, 2.5 bath. It's over 2,000 square feet. It was in Puyallup, and he pays about $2,100 a month for that, right? And we all know that if you live in Seattle or whatever, you're already paying that. You're already paying that whether you're renting or not, right? Mm-hmm. And by the way, he wouldn't mind me telling this. In fact, he loves for me to tell this. This is a testimony for him. And so all he ended up doing after I got him on that 0% down payment program, 0% down payment means you don't have to put down any money to buy a home. What he paid for was a home inspection, which everybody wants to have. You don't want to buy a house and not get it inspected. You know what I mean? Anything could go wrong, And on top of that, I work for my clients, but I tell them straight up, hey, I am not okay with you buying this house without getting an inspection if that's what you're doing. So I'm going to need you to sign something so we're on one accord and you understand the repercussions that could happen if you go ahead and proceed this direction without getting an inspection. But anyway, he paid $450 for an inspection, and then he had to pay for an appraisal because the bank wants to make sure you're not buying a house that and paying for a house that's paying more for a house than what it's worth. So he paid $750. So actually, you guys do the math on that. That wasn't even $1,500. Oh, and I forgot. He put down $1,500 as earnest money. And earnest money is just something that you put down to show that you're serious and ready to buy. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And the earnest money goes towards your the cost of buying a home and everything like that. Mm-hmm. But listen, when he was working with me, I worked so hard for him that he ended up getting that earnest money back. So literally he put down less than $1,500. His wife did not work and does not work, and they have, like I said, 4 kids. $1,500 changed his life. He went from a studio to a 4-bedroom house. And for me, I had tears in my eyes just handing him the key and seeing them turn that door and seeing those kids run through the door. They're trying to figure out where they're at. They haven't even grabbed the concept that this is where they're going to be living now. You know what I mean? Each one of them had their own room, their space. They went crazy. They were running through the house. He's got all school-age children, like from 8 on down to 2 years old. They're running through the house, and his wife is smiling, and it made me feel good. It's not about the money for me, Anthony. It's not about the money for me. What it's about is I believe that we need to give out what it is that we want to give back. So I'm a real estate broker, and I'm a real estate broker because I want to build legacy for my family. But I realize that if I want to build it for my family, I need to make it happen for yours and everybody else's family. Right. So the whole point of my rambling on is that I don't want people to think that you need $15,000, $20,000. I mean, it's good to have that money saved just in case I would not be able to negotiate your closing costs, which is the cost that you have to fuel the transaction on both sides. So the seller has closing costs and the buyer has closing costs. A lot of times what I do for my clients, as well as this client that I'm talking to you about, is I got the seller to pay his closing costs. Right. Okay. And if I can't get the seller to pay your closing costs, you know what I do? I tack whatever you owe onto the purchase price of the house, and it only bumps your payment up just a little bit, right? You heard me say the total that he was paying was $2,100. Mm-hmm. So I got them to pay the closing costs for him. You see what I'm saying? So for $1,500, you can go from building somebody else's portfolio to building your own portfolio. And you, Anthony, said something so vital when we were rapping. You said, Tammy, people are involved in real estate whether they know it or not. They're just on the wrong side of the cash register. That is brilliant. Honey, we need to put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah. And that's what I had to learn about myself. Like,
Yeah.
I'm already doing it. I'm already paying rent. I'm already dealing with landlords and, dealing with different type of people, that's involved in real estate, dealing with the bank. It's like, man, like, okay, what is it going to take for me to get on the opposite side of this thing? Like, how can I get, some of that, passive income every month so I can make sure my family taken care of, so I can start building my legacy so my children can go up and understand that, look, you don't just have to, pay people rent. You know what I mean? You can get paid rent as well. Whatever you want to do. And we just want to let our people know that those options are available. Not saying that everybody need to be a broker or everybody need to be an investor. You know what I mean? We're not saying that, but what we are saying is that you need to start looking at this thing from a different perspective. You need to see how you and your family can get on top of it and on the other side of it. So therefore, when the crash do happen, you won't be affected in a negative way, and I think, if we all get involved in that, Tammy, and I feel like we just gave out some key points. Exposure. We're right now through this conversation that we're having, we are exposing people to the realness of real estate, to the truth of real estate, you know what I mean, and real estate investing. And then we also let them know that you do have enough money. You know what I'm saying? You do.
Yes,
You can
you
get
do.
testimony about your client putting less than $1,500 down. Yeah. I know we got that. You know what I'm saying? All it takes is a little discipline. All it takes is a little bit of saving. You know what I mean? That's all it takes. And then once you get in position where you can purchase real estate or you purchasing your own home, then you build up equity in your home. We gonna get deeper into this, Tammy. We just gonna scratch the surface right now, but we gonna get much deeper into this and let people know all the benefits of real estate. I'm from tax loopholes, everything. Tammy, we need to talk about all of it. The FHA 203K. We need to tell people about house hacking, how they can live, in a home for a year, and then after a year they can rent out parts of the house. You know what I mean, and start receiving.
Go ahead now. Go
You
ahead.
know?
Go ahead. Morning motivation. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I want to inspire the people real quick. I want to impact them real quick. If I could just take some time, Tammy, right now, to inspire people and let them know that real estate is not above you. You know what I'm saying? Real estate is not beyond your visual. Real estate is not impossible. Yes, it's possible. It's possible for you. It's possible for your family, your neighbor. It's possible for whoever believes it's possible. That's all I had to do was start believing it, Tammy. I asked myself that question. I said, what's the difference between me and them? Oh, my mindset. That's the only thing. Like they think,
That's what it is.
you know what I'm saying? They don't think like a renter. They think like a homeowner. So let me change the way I think, and maybe my situation will start changing, Tammy. But I want to motivate and encourage somebody today. Just, start looking into real estate. Reach out to Tammy, LaTamla Townsend, real estate broker. She is a phenomenal person, y'all. She gonna look out for you. She gonna answer your questions. She gonna walk with you. She gonna walk with the situation, through the situation. She gonna walk around the situation, into it, whatever you want her to do. Tammy's gonna do it because she's all about empowering our people. She's not just trying to make a commission. She's not just trying to make $1. She's trying to get our people from one level to the next. And real estate is not impossible. It's not too big of a dream. It's not too much money. You know what I mean? And you got the right exposure right here, y'all. Be motivated, be encouraged, be inspired from this Zoom meeting right here, y'all. For real, there's some vital information that people are hiding. And I'm here to bring this information. Me and Tammy bringing this information to our communities so we can get on the opposite side of this thing and start building our legacy, start building generational wealth for our families, y'all. Let's go. Go ahead, Tammy. Anything else you want to say?
Yeah, one thing I wanted to say before wrapping up. So people might be watching this and saying, well, what gives her the inclination that there's going to be a crash? I'm going to tell you why. Because there's two things that are going on now. The first thing is that now what they're doing is they're getting uncomfortable. They're putting a little bit more stipulations on what it takes to get a loan now, because what people are doing are buying houses and they're sort of falling back on the fact that the governor says that they don't have to pay. Right? Okay, so they're doing that. And
Right.
then the other thing is that what is being done, even though they're telling people they don't have to pay their mortgage and different things like that, and they're holding off all of the landlords and not accepting any type of court legal court how can I put it? Any type of thing to where you can take somebody to court for not paying their, mortgage or whatever. They're stopping that.
The eviction process and
Yeah,
stuff
the
like that.
eviction process. They're stopping all of that. Honey,
Right.
let me tell you something. When we come back, they haven't mentioned anything. When we come back from this COVID-19, they haven't mentioned anything, any type of bailouts for you
Right.
or me or anybody. So you know what's going to end up happening. And I'm going to tell you something. The reason why I believe it's going to crash is because they could very well take all this money that everybody ends and tack it onto the end of their loan. They could talk about that right now. But why aren't they talking about it? Because I don't think they're planning on doing it.
Right.
Okay? I don't think that they're planning on doing it. So don't be fooled by this thing where they're saying, oh, you don't have to pay anything up front and this and that and the other, because as soon as this COVID-19 thing is lifted, oh, the landlord cometh. Okay. And the bank cometh, and they're coming for you. Okay. So you got to be smart with your money. And also too, for those of you that are waiting and trying to figure out what to do with your money, it's best to sit on your money because it's coming. I don't hear anything about bailouts, anything about anything. And the bottom line is nobody lives for free. So all this stuff that we're not paying eventually is going to come back and we're going to owe it. So what's, and then one more thing, you said something about the stimulus check. So if you're not going to save your stimulus check, the only other thing that I really want to encourage people to do is get into business. If you're not going to use your stimulus check and save it, use it to start a business. Use it to start a business. I know a young person right now, 22 years old, instead of going out and buying some J's, you know what he did? He went out and bought an iMac. And he's taking that $1,200 and he's about to get a business license. I'm helping him with it right now. And he's starting a channel, a YouTube channel and stuff like that to talk about the things that he's passionate about, So you don't have to just take your stimulus check and put it away. You can also find ways to use your stimulus check to make money for you while you're waiting on these changes to transpire. And that's all I wanted to say. You have anything else to add before we go, Anthony?
No, Tammy, I think that this was enough information. People gonna be blessed by this. And I think, if you don't get somewhere from this information, it's like, you don't want to get nowhere. You know what I mean? So we strictly talking to the people that want to get somewhere, that, that's having these type of questions, but too afraid to ask them. So I think that's it, Tammy. I really appreciate you having me, for real.
Thank you so much. And you're an inspiration to me as well. I'm really blessed by what I see you doing with your children. It's just mind blowing. Like, I wish I could go back, even though I was a darn good mom, but I sort of wish I could have went back and impacted my son a little bit more about finances and stuff like that. And I see what you guys are doing with your children, man. They're going to be, man, they're going to be off the chain. You should be very proud of what you're doing. And I just love the husband that I see that you're being to your wife, and what you're aspiring to be to your wife and your children. And I just want to tell you to keep on pressing on and keep on doing that morning motivation and inspiring people, because it is a blessing to me. So I know that it's a blessing to others. Thank you so much, Anthony.
Thank you so much, Tammy. I really appreciate all the kind words. Hopefully we can do this again very soon. Appreciate you once again.
Thank you. Have a good day, okay?
All right, you too, Tammy.
Okay, thanks. Bye.